Good evening. Welcome to the Voice of Reason. I'm John Martin, the host, and I'm going to introduce my first guest, which is Rob Konaj, because he is getting so popular. He's on multiple channels. Would you introduce our new guest that you invited?
Sure, John. Thank you for once again hosting the Voice of Reason show. Tonight we are joined by a Board of Selectmen candidate. His name is Jonjy Ananth, and he is Ananth. Thank you for the correction. And he is a candidate for selectman at the upcoming elections we're having. And tonight we're here to get a little information about him, provide that to the public, and ask him a few questions and see how he does, and with some feedback, and get an idea of how we can, in my opinion, even out the board, in essence. Because one of the things that I'm starting to see is that the school committee and the Board of Selectmen are starting to be one.
Well, they're one of the school committee members is now running for your job.
Well, it's not my job.
I
myself.
It's yours until you lose it. How's that?
Thank you. No, it's the people's seat, and that's something that I wish to convey to everybody. I just came on this show to let all of you know that I'm a candidate for office, for selectman, and I hope that after this show, and you will get to know me better, and you will consider me for your vote.
Well, thank you very much for being here, Jonjy.
Thank you.
Why don't we start with a meeting that I saw that you were in attendance on the other night.
Before we get into
Sure.
it, let me just make sure that I let everybody know a little bit about myself, so that I'm not, going cold.
Great.
And Ananth, actually, it means forever lasting. So, and I want to make sure everyone knows the last name, because it'll be on the ballot. If everyone's looking for Anand or something, they may not find it. But I did bring my bio, and I'm not usually the one to read it, but basically, I just wanted everyone to know that that I'm a candidate for selectman. I grew up here in Shrewsbury. I went to the Shrewsbury Public Schools, and I also I'm a doctor. I'm a MD, MBA. I work in research, and I'm also a state commissioner of the Asian American Commission. We inform the state on legislation concerning Asian Americans. I have won several awards, including the YWCA Great Guy Award for my advocacy for women and ending domestic violence. And I recently received a Senate citation for my volunteer work. Also, interestingly enough, I work with many volunteer organizations, and one of the themes of my candidacy is for the people. And I encourage you to go to my website, jonjy.com. You can even learn that much of my life has been for the people. It is this whole election is something as an expression of volunteerism. The job of selectman is a volunteer job, and all I would like to do for the people is to represent them, be a conduit between them and the administration, so that I can find out what your concerns are and take them to the town, and I can get feedback from the town and come back to you.
The percentage of Asian Americans in this town has been increasing ever since I've lived here.
Yes.
What percentage are they at now? Do you know?
Well, I know for sure that there are over 1,000 registered Indian American voters, but I don't know statistically the specifics of what percentage of the town they comprise. I will say that it is a good thing that we have such a diversity of perspectives in town. When I grew up in Shrewsbury, I was one of the only Indian American kids. And while I appreciate that being different is, learning how to adapt to being different is a good thing.
You're not so different anymore.
Well, I'll tell you, actually it's good to be different. And that's the lesson that I learned. And in part of my volunteering for people, I learned that, really speaking, we're all very much the same. We have the same ways of living. We've got the same ideas. We live a lot. We're very similar. But at the end of the day, and that's one of the reasons why it's so important for all of us to participate and volunteer with our community. And the most fundamental community that we have is Shrewsbury.
Let me back up to the first topic I wanted to cover,
Sure.
and that'll get us warmed up maybe. And that was the overrides. Because there's an open seat for a selectman,
Yes.
that's where the power is to decide to have an override and what kind. And that's very important. You understand it. And of course, our viewers need to understand it and review it in their minds because they have to vote on it.
Yes.
It's something that isn't taken care of in a committee somewhere and they never get to see it.
Yes.
This is more an open in the public. All right, to start with, if they, you had mentioned that maybe the highway department needed more people to supervise the contractors.
Yes. Interesting story about that. I'll let you finish, but I want to share something with you.
I just wanted to point out that if you added staff to their department, it would be an override on the budget because that's how you get paid. So everybody in the town gets paid,
Yes.
but you have to collect the money first.
Yeah.
And so they have to make sure they're collecting enough. And what's your interesting story?
Oh, I went to the highway department today, and I wanted to share with you my experience. And let me be clear, I am a lower tax candidate. I believe in tax in efficiency in government, and I would like to see taxes lowered for people. Wherever we can save, wherever we can make things more efficient, I am for it. At the same time, I also want to encourage efficient use of our money so that we are spending it wisely, and I also want to increase our revenue base using a diversified base of revenue. Right now, Shrewsbury has mostly residential income, but through growth in the commercial sector, we can actually increase our revenue base from people who are transacting money and making money. Another area in which we can increase our revenue is through grant funding. And I know that the town has made great efforts to increase the amount of money coming back to Shrewsbury, and I applaud the town for what we've achieved. And I hope to continue that.
Well, they were just talking about that in the finance committee.
Yeah, and oh, one more thing too. I should mention also, there is a way in which private people can offer gifts to the town as well.
Oh, yeah.
And I also am of the sense that it's important for people to contribute to their town if they can afford to do so. And there are some people, in fact, who have offered. And as I'm going around the town and I meet people of more fortunate status, some of them have even offered to give gifts for the town. And I would like to increase the amount of communication we have amongst our town people, between the administration and the town, so that if people find that there's an opportunity for them to contribute, that they have that opportunity.
And
Well,
to
have you
make
ever
it
noticed-
simple, and to make it simple and easy, have the forms ready, have a free lawyer service ready to make this happen.
Absolutely.
Well, it's
whatever it
happened in
takes.
the past, it's just not well advertised.
Oh,
But if you see the fire department has an extra vehicle,
yeah.
either for the fire chief or the deputy to go out and inspect things. That vehicle was donated to the town.
Really? Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it was probably only like $25,000 gift.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's because whoever the connection is at the fire department, the other guy had money in his pocket
Oh,
with nothing to do with it,
great.
and he donated that vehicle. But it comes up all the time. A matter of fact, you said you went to school in
Yes.
Shrewsbury.
Yes.
You might have noticed how much money parents have to donate in order to get a full slate of activities for their child. They have fees for after school, sometimes,
Awesome.
I don't know, sports. That's a big one. And so they ask for more money. It's like gifting in order for your child to participate in certain things.
Yeah, one of the things, and I hope that we can get to a point where people don't feel like they have to donate. A donation should be a gift, and one of the things that as I'm talking to moms and to teachers that I'm learning about our school system is that there are a lot of, our school system, first of all, has such a good reputation. We have an excellent school system, and I know, I went there.
You were among them, I know.
Oh, I'm not. I'm
So was
okay.
my son.
Yeah.
He went through all the grades.
Wonderful. So, but at the same time, there are so many opportunities in which we can make the schools even better. And as I'm talking to parents, I'm learning more about opportunities, as you had mentioned, the busing after school. And as I understand, it was actually introduced into the budget. But a lot of kids like to stay after school for programs, and we don't yet have a form of transportation for them.
No late bus.
Yeah, there's no late bus, and unfortunately, some of those kids have to walk home. I met one kid in particular who walked home, and the snow had actually not been cleared from the sidewalk, so he had to walk on the road. And he walked through some safe areas, but he did walk on one street that was less safe. His mother was not happy to hear that, but he conveyed that to me because there was an opportunity to fix it in this election. So I'm not running for me, I'm running for him, and I'm running for you and you with these kinds of stories, so that we can convey it to the administration, and wherever people's qualities of life are in any way affected in a negative way, we want to address it. I want to address it.
Well, I remind everybody out there they can donate money to his campaign. It's a not a forced donation, but one that he could use, I'm sure.
Thank you, absolutely. Yes, you can donate to the Ananth committee, and you can also go to jonjy.com. But most importantly, I need your vote. And that's what I would like to ask you for, both of you and you, that this campaign ultimately is about earning your vote. And I say earning because I am working hard on your behalf, and I don't expect your vote. But I hope that through shows like this, and by meeting you at your doorstep, holding a sign for you on the street, maybe you'll consider me and you'll vote for me.
And you are a current town meeting member,
Yes, sir.
so you've seen the inner workings of how town meeting works.
Yes, yes.
And I believe there's an article coming up for term limitation. Someone's going to introduce that article this time around.
Yeah, for town meeting?
Not for town meeting, but for selectmen.
Okay, yeah, that is an interesting proposal, because I will say, selectmen, we do have contested races, but for town meeting, and this is an important message for everyone, is town meeting, unfortunately, and I've served on town meeting now for several years. What can I say? We need more people. And you were actually the first person that I met in town meeting. It was such a wonderful...
Yeah, we sat in the front row, didn't
we
we?
sat in the front row. We were like the good kids. we were right up there, and the stage was right above us, and it was kind of surreal because you could see, but you had to kind of crook your head back to... So when they were videotaping us, we were all, two of us were like looking up. But I'll tell you that it's an example of the need that we have for more civic engagement in the town. And another reason why I hope that my candidacy will be good for the town is that as I get out and talk to people, they will get engaged with what the needs are of our town and recognize that their needs, as far as their quality of life is concerned, can be addressed through me. And I'm willing to listen, and I'm willing to represent them and you.
Excellent. Well, I saw you at the dog hearing the other night in the audience.
Yes, I was there.
The Board of Selectmen held a dog hearing for someone who lived up off of 140
Yes,
in the Gold Street area.
yes.
And I was curious to get some of your feedback of how you thought that went and how you think that's going to go, because really it didn't look like the problem is completely resolved. It's going to be pushed down the line a little bit, and we'll see how it goes, kind of.
Yeah, it was unfortunate. And I was approached by the Luke family who had asked me to come out to support them in their experience of having dogs that were disrupting their peace. I also had the opportunity to meet the Springer family as well and learn about their experience in moving to Shrewsbury and all of the, as we saw in the hearing, that she has eight children, and she lived on a farm that had lots of animals. And so living in that kind of community was new for her. but she has taken some steps, but not enough. And in the meantime, families like the Luke family are, their retirement is being affected. Their peace is being disrupted. And we all have a right to peace. That being said, there is a fundamental issue that goes deeper than a dog issue. And I should say their dog issue. It is a dog issue, but beyond the dog issue that affects just that community. The first issue is our dog health. So it came up in the committee hearing that the types of dogs are actually herder dogs. So that's when they feel like they're threatened, they will start to bark. But in general, and as part of my candidacy, one of the things on my agenda is to try to make Shrewsbury a more dog-friendly town. I would like to, because I tell you, I love dogs. My neighbors had dogs. When I was in England studying, my neighbors also had dogs, and in England, I would actually confide in those dogs, and they were one of my best friends. And I see dog walkers pass by my house every day, and it's always a great opportunity to meet the neighbors. So I enjoy our canine residents, but I feel that our town can do more to support them. And we had a conversation about a dog park, I know, in the past. And I hope that we can continue that discussion and further discussions about how we can make Shrewsbury a more dog-friendly town. And before you go about the expenses of the dog park, I will say, just on this show, this is something, it's an announcement, but it's also in my campaign literature, that I have found corporate sponsorship for a dog park. So if, in working with the administration to find out where the best place to place it is and all the logistics behind it and when and how to do it, but as far as the money goes, we have found a corporate sponsor for a dog park, and if elected, I hope that I can continue to work on that for all of us and for our canine friends.
Excellent. My only thought was that it was sad to see that the situation had escalated that far.
Right.
And I thought that, with all the years of experience that our animal control officer had, I think she could have cut that off much earlier.
There's another issue. I mentioned the dog issue. I said there were two. The other issue is about neighborliness. I feel that at the end of the day, that particular dispute comes down to neighbors. And it's a responsibility of the dog owner to make sure that their dogs are taken care of in a way that is not disrupting their neighbors, because being considerate for your neighbors is a part of our culture here in Shrewsbury. I know I grew up here, and I'll tell you, I love my neighbors, and I've gone very far out of my way to help my neighbors whenever I could. And that's just an expression of love, as with all volunteer service. And I feel at the same time, in that dog hearing, there was a lot of legality behind the dispute. But at the end of the day, at the fundamental core of it, is a dispute between neighbors. And I hope, and I mentioned it to both sides, that I hope, honestly, from a Shrewsbury standpoint, that we can settle this issue. We can solve it where the dogs are not barking anymore, and that they can all get along in a happy way as good neighbors.
It's just a tough move-in process. I mean, the family just moved in, and now they have to get an attorney to represent themselves right out of the gate. So hopefully they're going to stay in that location and bring up a nice family. And we'll see how it goes. It just sounds like there's going to be a round two in a few months to me already.
I'd like to bring up another topic, safety. You had a number of safety items last show. I got a passel full of them. We had a study done in recent past about how to make the schools safer. And after they get all said and done, we got nothing out of that. Zero. We're no safer than they were before. One of the things that has occurred is that the police department doesn't want to contribute any more policemen to the school system because they have to take it away from their other duties. And so they have figured out a priority long ago. So if they need another patrolman in the car, let's say, and the guy's sick, they'll come to the school and take out the one they assigned to the middle schools. And I've seen it done. And so instead of having 2 policemen in the school department, there's only 1.
Yeah.
And so they've set their priorities. So when they did the study, they didn't volunteer to do anything different than that, except empty out the where the policemen are at the station if they get a call, and everybody run to that particular school. Well, unfortunately, we found out through a lot of bad practices around the country that by the time policemen get there, you could have 20 or 30 wounded or dead in one classroom. And that's how fast it happens. And now they're bringing in automatic weapons. They don't have to reload that much. So it's a terrible thing, but we don't have anything to counter it. But a number of the schools have made some changes. One is they're taking veterans after they get out of the service, and they're qualified in rifle and clogs, which is a pistol, and hiring them for security purposes. They needed this one school, they hired 2 veterans to protect that school. That's like 100% more than we do.
Yeah.
And if you do that for every building, it's an astronomical percentage, because we're not protecting any of the middle schools or the elementary schools or the preschools in any way, shape, or form.
That's a good idea, because we were talking about using constables actually as different type of volunteers.
Yes.
I believe he is. What's your
Yes.
constable right
Yes,
He's a
now?
constable.
I'm
He is a
a
constable.
Shrewsbury constable, and we were talking about earlier the use of, with Chief Hester's blessing, we would like to expand our use of constables. They're like independent contractors, so you can pay them less. It's a little bit more efficient. If you don't have a police officer to deploy to a particular area, like a crosswalk or something like that, an idea that's been floated is maybe utilizing our constables. But these ideas have to get the blessing of our police department, because they are ultimately in charge of making sure that we are have an effective police force. So we don't want random people doing things. But at the same time, once we can have a conversation with Police Chief Hester, hopefully we'll get to a point where we are using our constables more. I will say that, interestingly, it's good you mentioned that, because I was at a campaign event a couple weeks ago, and I met a lady who's from my street who has designed a technology to identify. It's a AI-based computer technology that will identify a school shooting sound, specifically the types of sounds that you would hear in a school shooting, and then automatically communicate the information to the police, not only that the school shooting is taking place, but also where the shooting is occurring. And so that information would also be relayed to the police. It's an interesting technology, and it's something that we can have a discussion about going forward, maybe in the long term. But there are new technologies that are coming out like that can help increase our readiness for school shootings, and most importantly, give our parents some sense of security. I will say, having said that Shrewsbury was ranked number 3, I believe, right? The top, what was it, number 3?
1 or 2, 3, yeah.
In America, as being one of the safest safest towns in America.
But it's not the police force. It's all the adults in town that are not producing the crimes.
Yeah.
And that's the trick.
Yes.
I know we've added 2 policemen to the force this year.
Yes.
And the reason was they didn't feel safe not having a fully staffed police force. I talked about the guy sick or something. And so instead of running shorthanded, they want to have 2 more people to fit into those cars to get out there. And they're doing that as we speak.
Let me mention something. So as a constable, I've been going around and I do service of process on occasion. And I'll tell you that it was such a learning experience for me. And it taught me a lot more. I have a lot of respect for our police, and I feel that they do a dangerous job. That being said, I have a tremendous amount more respect for our police in the kind of dangerous work that they undertake. So I got a call one time, and I went to serve a notice, and I remember how much prep work it went into it, because I wasn't sure what kind of danger I would encounter, even though it was a civil case. What kind of danger is when somebody opens the door? You're exposed on all sides. And I came away from that, my first experience, and I remembered how much admiration I had for our police who do that every day. So I'll tell you that one of the things that I hope we can get towards, as we had mentioned, was, and the staffing issue seems to be occurring in multiple departments, and I actually wanted to talk about that as well because I visited the highway department. There are recommended staff for ratios, how much staff each department should have. But I will say that as far as police goes, I hope that we can get to a point where we're using technology where we can. We're using all the resources, including expanding our use of constables with the chief's blessing. And at the same time, we also recognize what an amazing service our police are doing for us. And I hope that through this show, this platform, I just want to say from my own personal experience that the police really do a good job, and for making us the safest in the country, I thank you.
Agreed. I mean, unfortunately, a lot of the issues revolve around the Worcester City Motel. And the people
They're
that come...
not local residents, though.
Right, the people that come and visit there. And they're staying there, they're hiding out. A lot of them have open warrants. The police come in there and check for open warrants, and they arrest them. They take them to our police station, keep them overnight, or keep them till a Monday morning. And then my question was, how do they get from our police station back to the court that they're supposed to be at on the Monday morning, if it's somewhere in Newburyport or down the South Shore or wherever it may be? I'm curious how they get from that jail cell to that court the next time that they're supposed to
They
be in
take
court.
another policeman or two to escort them out of town. I've even seen how you talk about a warrant.
Yes?
There's only one policeman per car. There are 4 cars on duty at a time. I've seen all 4 cars go to one house to issue a warrant.
Oh.
I just happened to be driving along, and I seen that happen. Of course, fortunately, the guy wasn't home.
I'll tell you. So when I went to serve that process for the first time, I wish I had 4 cars with me. I was like, oh man, I wonder what's going to happen. But one thing I did want to mention quickly, because I know we're almost out of time. So I served as president and board chair of a large organization called WCUW 91.3 FM. It's a radio station based out of Worcester, one of the oldest radio stations in the country, founded by Sir Robert Goddard, who's the founder of modern rocketry. And I had many years of board experience, and I served as president for this very large organization. So I just want everybody to know that I have a lot of board experience. I have a lot of experience in government through my service in the Asian American Commission. And I have a lot of service in volunteerism and helping people directly. Whether it's through domestic violence, I serve as a volunteer with Saheli, ISW Crisis Committee, in many different ways advocating for women. As I'd mentioned, I got the Great Guy Award from YWCA. But the point is that I'm committed to working closely with the administration to find where we can do things better and where we can do things more efficiently and more effectively.
Well, excuse me.
We're almost out of
It's
time.
time to say goodnight.
I'm out of time,
Good night,
but thank
folks.
you, everyone.
Thanks for attending tonight, John.
Thank you for having me.